and welcome to Jojo Fry Rock's live stream. And it does seem like an appropriate time actually to be talking about the topic of going to see live music. Obviously in the UK it's been the biggest music festival in the UK, Glastonbury, and yeah, it feels like a good time to kind of talk about this topic. It was because of a comment actually on the last video that I put out about my experiences going to see Jerry Cantrell live, and obviously that was a massively positive experience and it was absolutely fantastic. But I got a really good question on the comments, which was, have you ever had any bad experiences? Like, have you ever been to any really, really terrible, dreadful gigs that were awful? And I thought, well, actually, yes, I have. Yes, I have. So I think that would be a very good topic for a live stream. And I would love to hear all of your stories about some of the dreadful, terrible gigs that you've been to. So let's just say a quick hello to everybody who's here. So hi Blues, you were first one in, and Ema and Mark, Ema, I never know how to say that. Hozza, Ninja Sticks, Scott, nice to see you. Will, fry or die. I try to like be, a bit less threatening than that, I think. But yeah, fry or die. I do like it. That's pretty cool. All the fryers out there, that does make me smile. Oh no, can everyone hear me? I'm using my lav mic. Am I not loud enough still? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? Do I need to turn the audio up? How do I do that? Bear with me a minute. Oh, Jade Guitars. Hi, Jade. Nice to see you. I will make you a mod. I'll do it for the next time, because going to YouTube and fiddling around is a little bit of a faff. Scott, you can hear me? That's good. The transmitter has dB boost. Probably does, Brian. I wouldn't know. Hang on, if I move it, is that going to make it better? Oh, it keeps falling down. Oh, this is why I stopped using lav mics, because they're just awkward, aren't they? Hozza says it's not too bad. All right, great, thank you. Ray, good evening. Well drunk. All right, catch the video tomorrow. Live music is alive and well. Wow, 70 gigs a year. That's a lot. And thank you very much, Ray. I hope that I rock, because that is what this channel is all about. So thank you very much. 70 gigs a year is awesome. I'm still trying to just do one, and it's been just over a year that I've been jamming and practicing with Dan. So yeah, we've still yet to get to an open mic night. I think mostly because we're a little bit we haven't found one that we like yet, and we've been to a couple locally, and they haven't sort of felt like the right vibe for what we want to do. But maybe we should just do it anyway. Just get over it, maybe. Great, thanks, Will. I send the live stream over my PA boxes. Oh, so I'm loud enough for your whole neighbourhood. Hey, Will's neighbours, how are you doing? Hope you've had a great weekend. Hope you all had a great weekend. So yeah, I really want to hear from all of you. So please do say in the comments that hopefully everyone should be able to see on the screen. I've worked out how to put them on the screen now. Yeah, what are some of your kind of worst, most disappointing experiences of going to see live gigs? Because I think that's the worst thing about it, isn't it? Right? It's like you've got these expectations. You know, you've paid, you know, probably a significant or not insignificant amount of money. You've made plans. Probably you've travelled 9 times out of 10 to go and watch a band or an artist, and then when you go, if it doesn't measure up, it's crushing, you know. It's just really kind of soul destroying. I think it's you know, it's one of the kind of most disappointing things, really. And yeah, it's happened plenty of times. Hi Peter. Ninja Sticks. So what's your disappointing gig? Seeing Rob Zombie circa 2003 was pretty disappointing. He was, not the band. He couldn't finish a verse, let alone a song. Why was that? Was it because he was, what was he, like, out of it, drunk, like on drugs or something? Or was he just kind of, forgetting the words, or couldn't be bothered? What was going on, do you think? Had you seen him before? Had he, like, previously been really good, and then you were kind of disappointed by going to see him in those particular circumstances? Because that can happen. You can go and see a band or an artist X number of times, and then, you know, go and see them on another occasion and feel pretty disappointed and pretty let down. Right, out of breath. Okay, so he was, yeah, probably getting on quite a bit by 2003. I don't know how old is old Rob Zombie. Let's have a look. Rob Zombie, so he's 60 now. So, so like 20 years ago, he should have been fine. He should have been fine. He was only 40. There's no excuse. No excuse for that. That's pretty lame, isn't it? Will, one of the worst gigs I've ever seen was Paradise Lost in 2013. My heroes of the 90s sucked as hell. Oh no. Oh, that's so upsetting when they are, you know, heroes that you had growing up as well. I mean, that's definitely one of the main reasons why I would not, at this time, I would not go and see Bon Jovi, for example. I know that he can't sing anymore, right? And for whatever reason, you know, overuse of his voice and stuff, but I know he's at a point where that's not going to get better. That's, you know, he's not going to recover. So I've just sort of accepted that I never saw Bon Jovi live, and I never will. Even if Richie Sambora were to rejoin and tour or something, I just wouldn't put myself through it, because I just know. And I think, you know, for the same reason, I'd be dubious about going to see Guns N' Roses as well, because I'm just not sure. Well, to be fair though, you never knew what you were going to get when you went to see Guns N' Roses anyway. So yeah, who knows? Mark, worst gig is a toss-up between Neil Young and Lou Reed. Oh, Neil Young, he just headlined, didn't he? So this is kind of particularly pertinent. He just headlined Glastonbury, didn't he? The toss-up between Neil Young and Lou Reed. Young was just noise. Well, you know, arguably, I mean, that isn't that like his thing anyway? Reed hated everyone in the audience and clearly didn't want to be there. Wow. Okay. That is inexcusable, I think. I think unless it really is your shtick, like just being a really foul, ill-tempered, abrasive, obnoxious person, and if that's sort of the character that you inhabit as, you know, as an artist, and people accept that, you know, then just being really off with the audience, I just think that's a no. That's a hard no from me when people have spent money to come and see you, definitely. Good evening, Michelle. Nice to see you. Oh, The Clash, yeah. Like, I would have loved to have seen The Clash. Joe Strummer went missing and the gigs were cancelled. How do we feel about that? I mean, super disappointing for you, obviously, because getting your money back, okay, that's fair, that's good. But that doesn't accomplish the goal of going to see The Clash, which is, you know, that's really gutting. I think that's the same for any artist. But that does happen, you know, and we're all human, aren't we? And things happen. People get ill, or, I mean, going missing, who knows what was really happening there. But that is super disappointing though, still. So yeah, totally understand that one. Oh, that surprises me, Ninja Sticks, that System of a Down weren't very good. Maybe due to drug use, but a mess. Yeah, and again, I think that is something that's pretty inexcusable. Like, you're a top tier professional musician at that point. You know, if you're System of a Down, you know, you're making a lot of money out of this, and clearly they are capable and competent musicians, very good musicians, actually, quite incredible normally anyway. So for them to then not be able to give that performance, yeah, I think that's pretty poor. That really is quite poor, I would say. Scott, yes, I can relate to this one because I have seen Motorhead as well. They played so loud you couldn't tell the vocals from the drums. I've also had a similar experience. The one and only time that I've seen Motorhead, it was just so loud. I think this was back in the day, kind of before you had, before venues had sound limiters, when you could just have like a wall of like Marshall stacks and stuff on the stage, and you could literally just like blast out the audience. I think sometimes it's my own fault because I do like to go and be at the front, so I do like to try to stand at the front of a gig, mainly because I'm so short and I like to be able to see what's going on. It does mean that I don't get really the full like sound quality usually, because I'm not in an optimum position. But I do remember, like, I felt like my eardrums were bleeding, and it does all kind of mesh into one kind of muddy, loud noise at that point. So yeah, the only other gig that I can remember being louder than that was, I went to Southampton to see the Wild Hearts, who were brilliant, who I love, and the support band was Therapy, and oh my god, like I thought I'd gone deaf. I couldn't hear the Wild Hearts after Therapy had played. And that was like, you know, my ears were kind of buzzing for a few days after that. They were just too loud. It was ridiculous. So yeah, sometimes that kind of thing can make a gig really, really bad. Just the sheer kind of volume. But I think nowadays, I think you don't sort of tend to get that so much, because legally now we have like a lot more restrictions, and venues are a lot more restricted in volume levels and stuff. So hopefully, hopefully we shouldn't get too much of that these days. But yeah, Lemmy never did quiet. That is true. Yeah, that is kind of their thing, I guess. Peter Quinn says, I saw Dave Mustaine walk off stage at Guitar Fest. But that is pretty Dave Mustaine, isn't it? Like, he's gonna throw some kind of wobbly, probably at most things. I saw a video of him the other day, actually, where some drunk guy in the crowd, it was quite funny. Probably not for Dave Mustaine, but it was just some drunken guy who was shouting something like, I'm a better guitarist than you, or something stupid like that. And a lot of the comments just said, dude, wrong Dave, wrong Dave. Like, I think the guy was thinking that, like, it would be one of those moments like a Foo Fighters gig where, you know, Dave Grohl, you know, famously kind of like pulls people up out of the audience, gets them to play guitar or sing or play drums or something. And there's a moment, you know, I'm sure it's all pre-arranged. I'm sure it's not really spontaneous and stuff. But I think this guy in his sort of drunken state thought that he was going to have like a Foo Fighters moment. And yeah, all the comments are all like, oh, dude, wrong Dave. And Dave Mustaine just balls him out and like gets security to throw him out. So yeah. I think I'd be disappointed if I went to see Megadeth and Dave Mustaine didn't do anything like that. I think I'd feel a bit cheated. Oh, Blue, so you went to see Guns N' Roses and they kept you waiting over an hour. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty standard for them, isn't it? Hey, Tony, you joined. Nice to see you, mate. Oh, Bowie and The Who. Were those good gigs, Tony, or were those gigs that were a little bit mediocre or a little bit disappointing? Because I would guess with both of those, you know, they probably could be a little bit inconsistent, maybe. Evening, Peter. No worries. Don't worry about being late. No problem at all. Hozzer says, I saw 4 non-blondes at Meadowbank Stadium. Geez, they were dreadful. Well, you were working there, so I guess it's not as bad, is it? I mean, yeah, okay, you had to suffer through what probably wasn't the greatest set in the world, maybe, but at least it wasn't like your favourite band and you'd paid and travelled to see them. So yeah, you know, I've been to see quite a few bands that I thought were really disappointing, actually. Back in kind of 2009, I remember going to see Kings of Leon, and that was kind of when they were very popular at that point. I wasn't that into them, but the person that I was with at the time really liked them, and he was in a band, and they were sort of trying to be a bit like them. You know, that was where rock was at the time, I think. And I thought some of their songs were good, so I thought, oh, this should be good. You know, We went to the O2, the big one that used to be the one that was the Millennium Dome. I can't remember what it is now, what it's called now. It just was the O2, but it's pretty big, probably like a 20,000 seater or something like that. And it just struck me that we were in this kind of basically a stadium, and the Kings of Leon were basically like a pub band. Like they were just a very small sounding band. There was kind of nothing to it. There wasn't much volume, so it was kind of quiet. There was nothing particularly engaging or exciting about their performance. It was kind of like just listening to the CD. You know, yeah, they played their songs, and everyone like clapped at the end, way. But it was all very, you know, everyone was sitting down. Nobody was like rocking out. It was just very dull. It was very boring. And I remember thinking, like, I travelled all the way to London, which was, you know, all right, it's not that far, I suppose, but it's travelling, it's staying overnight, you're queuing up, you know, it was a hot day, queuing up outside for a while to get in, and it was pretty expensive. And that was one of the first gigs where I thought, nah, I didn't like it. This wasn't worth it. This wasn't actually very good. So yeah, I was pretty disappointed about that. Will, another bad gig was Saxon. I was sorry for the singer because he had hardly a voice. Remaining band did well. Well, this is it, isn't it? You see, so I don't know when that was, Will, but obviously Saxon. Well, how long have they been going? They've been going, well, at least since the late 70s or 80s, I guess. And yeah, like sometimes the older the singer gets, you know, the more difficulty they have singing the songs, the kind of songs that they used to sing. And the rest of the band are kind of okay, because as a guitarist, you know, as Keith Richards proves, you can just keep going. You can just keep on going and going and going. But as a vocalist, as a singer, yeah, not so much, it turns out. So I think that happens, you know, quite a lot. Simon, hi Simon, nice to see you. Worst was Three Colours Red. Really? I used to quite like Three Colours Red. I think I've seen them a couple of times actually. Like, yeah, it would have been in the late 90s, maybe. I always thought they were quite good. What did they do? What did they do wrong? Oh, that's so brilliant, Scott. I saw Mustaine end a show with, "We are Megadeth and you're not." I'm sorry, I just like that. I don't know why. That just appeals to me for some reason. I just think that's kind of funny. Oh no, don't, no, not Depeche Mode. Really? I love Depeche Mode. Worst gig was Depeche Mode in 2001. They didn't play any of their big songs except Personal Jesus. Okay. That's a fair criticism. That's totally fair. Like, how many brilliant songs have Depeche Mode got? They've got so many. And you only get Personal Jesus, and then, like, yeah, you have to trawl through some of the dross off their later albums after Alan Wilder. Yeah. All right, that's fair. 2001 probably wasn't. Oh no, when did he leave? Yeah. I can't remember what album they'd have had out at that time, but that probably wasn't them at their best. So yeah, all right, that's fair. Best gig ever, probably the Stones at the Tokyo Dome. Well, that sounds pretty epic. Pretty epic. Hozza, you saw the Mac Lads, and that was an experience. I can imagine. I can imagine it was. Yeah, I think we won't say any more about that unless you have said some more about that. Blues, you were always at the front. Alice Cooper covered us all in fake blood. Ozzy covered us in cold water. It was so hot at the front. It does get pretty hot at the front. Much like it does in my office. Like, it feels like a sauna at the moment. Yeah, no, it does get pretty sweaty down the front. That sounded wrong. I mean, in the front row. That's what I meant. Yeah, the being covered in fake blood, was that a good thing or a bad thing? Like, that could be either. Excellent, Mr. Speed. Just saw AC/DC in April. They're still as loud as it gets. Awesome. I would expect no less. And yeah, I mean, it's AC/DC, isn't it? And I think, you know, Brian Johnson comes in for quite a lot of criticism, I think. But, like, to be honest, from what I've seen anyway, seems to be doing pretty well. I mean, given how long they've been around for. Ninja Stick says, loudest gig I saw was Slayer / Pantera. Yeah, in 02 or 03. The volume is one thing, the actual sound pressure hitting us hurt. The drums hit like cannons. Yeah, that's a good point as well. It's not just the loudness, you know, it, like how it kind of can hurt your ears, but obviously, you know, sound is a wave, it's a physical thing, and it can like vibrate so much that it actually hurts you, and you can certainly like feel vibrations sort of like through your chest and obviously stomach, and you have, you know, that's why they call it the brown sound and all that kind of thing. You know, there can be a number of ways in which it can physically affect you. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily sort of, doesn't always mean it's a bad thing. Like Will says, loudest gig was Man O' War. It was fantastic. So there are some people that feel that that's a good thing and an exciting thing, and I can totally understand that as well. Yeah, got you, Tony. I did mean they were all great, obviously. Okay, got it. I mean, it would have been amazing to have seen those guys, either of those, early on in their careers, definitely. Yeah, I do agree with you, Mr. Bungle, that the vocalist, what's his name? I don't know, Caleb. It's Caleb something or other. The vocalist from Kings of Leon does have a great tone, and that's totally true. But you can hear that on the album. Like, what? I don't need to go and watch him. I mean, he sounds the same. Or at that gig, you know, it just sounded the same as it did when I sat and listened to it on the CD or something, you know. It just didn't, it wasn't exciting. They didn't sort of do anything that made you feel like it was worth going to watch them play, is what I mean, really. Yeah, I agree, Blues. The lineup at Glastonbury is such rubbish. I haven't even bothered, I've not bothered watching it at all. I don't know, were the Darkness there? Maybe they were. But to be honest, I really hate festivals. I just hate festivals. So the only times that I've actually been to festivals was when I was really into the darkness, and I think they headlined. I think they were at Glastonbury, but they headlined the Reading and Leeds festival. So these are kind of like, you've got Glastonbury, you've got Reading and Leeds, you've got Download, and those are kind of like some of the big summer festivals in the UK. So the Darkness, I think in 2004 played Reading and Leeds, and I have whole long stories about when I went to that. But I did really, 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 really hate being there. I just hated it. I hated being like just in a crowd of like 100,000 people, and I had to literally like elbow my way past 100,000 people to get to the front, and then having to be there for kind of 10 or 11 hours was tough. That was really, really tough. So having to be there like at the main stage at the front for like 11 hours waiting for the Darkness, because they were headlining, so they came on last, and it was so rubbish. And I had to watch a whole bunch of bands that I had no interest in and that were really rubbish, including the White Stripes, I think. God, that was, I mean, they were terrible. They were just rubbish. The Hives, pretty dull, not anything that I wanted to see. Just a whole bunch of bands that I had no interest in, and it was hot, and I was there for hours. I didn't eat anything because you couldn't go off and get food. You couldn't do anything very easily. It was just a nightmare. And actually, when the Darkness came on, they played for about an hour. And that was it. And I know they only had one album out at the time. You know, they only had Permission to Land out at the time. And they'd only had a couple of singles off of it. But there was a bunch of B-sides that they could have played, all of which I really liked. They could have easily padded it out with that. But no, what they decided to do was to play basically some demos of songs that they were going to include in their second album. Like, I'm not being funny, and I'm not an expert, and obviously I've never been in a band that headlined the Reading Festival, but I would have thought that's not the time or place to try out new material that's not even really finished. And it kind of went down like a bucket of cold sick. I don't know if any of you were there. You might have been. But I just remember thinking, I've waited 11 hours for this, and you're playing me some demos that you're not even sure about from your new album that no one's heard. Like, this is really... I kind of felt a little bit embarrassed for them, and quite annoyed. So that's one of my worst gig experiences. Lammy, hey, excellent stream last night, by the way. We really must catch up, because yeah, I had a thought about something that we could do together, kind of in a collab kind of thing. So I've emailed you, but yeah, brilliant, really, really good fun. We're chatting all about our worst gig experiences, and I was just talking about my absolute loathing of festivals in particular, given that it's been Glastonbury. Peter Collins says, Guns N' Roses, Manchester 1992. Original date was cancelled, because they do that. and then rescheduled. The support bands finished, then there was a 2-hour wait until Guns N' Roses came on. Yeah, what is this? Like, it seems like he's always done it. It seems like it's just something that Axl's always done. Like, there's always at least an hour, if not more, to wait. And what is that about? Like, what is he doing? What's I don't know. I mean, maybe he thinks that it cranks up the tension, and maybe he likes that when he comes out finally, that then there's like this sort of like conflict, or it's a bit, maybe he likes the crowd being a little bit edgy. Maybe he kind of gets something out of that, but yeah, it's not good. It's not really very good, is it? And I think that's unfair. It's unfair on the rest of the band. It's unfair. It's unfair on everyone, isn't it? But that's Axl for you. Let's see. Who's that? Dear Matrona was my best recent gig. I don't know who that is. I haven't heard of them. You'll have to ping me a link or something, and I'll have a look. Best concert was one of Pat Metheny in Rome 10 years ago. Well, Pat Metheny, obviously. While the worst was U2 in Naples. Well, I'll tell you, where you went wrong there, right, was going to see U2. Bono was pissed off because the crowd didn't like the opening band, Velvet Underground. Yeah, I mean, I don't know though. I do kind of get that, because obviously the artist has chosen like their opening act, and there'll be a reason for that, and it may be that they really love them. It's like some of their heroes, I can remember when I started going to see The Darkness on their 2004 European tour and in the US, and they had the Wild Hearts with them, because so when they first started out, The Darkness had supported the Wild Hearts, and then kind of when The Darkness got really big, because Justin absolutely loves the Wild Hearts, he loves Ginger, and he wanted to kind of promote them, and the Wild Hearts had a new album out, so he wanted to bring them along on the tour. And for me that, like, it couldn't have been better. That just could not have worked out better, because I loved the Wild Hearts for a long, long time, so I was thrilled to be able to see them as the opening act. But they're very different kind of style of music to The Darkness. And so I can imagine that if you've gone to see The Darkness and the opening act is the Wild Hearts, you're probably going to be a little bit thrown or a little bit confused. But in general, I think the general nature of the crowd that went to see The Darkness on that tour was, everyone was up for having a good time. Everyone was there for fun, and everyone was into the spirit of it. So I think people just kind of went with it, but not as much as, you could tell that they didn't know who they were. They didn't really kind of get into the songs that much. And I think there was just a general sense of, this is a little bit noisy. When's The Darkness going to come on, kind of thing. And I did speak to the Wild Hearts about it, like, and they kind of said the same, but they were like, whatever, it doesn't matter, we're having a great time, and we've got a new album out, and they were all good about it. But I think Justin felt, there were a couple of times on that tour where he came out and he was like, let's have some more applause for the Wild Hearts. They're, and he was a bit like, come on, let's show a bit of love for the support act. So I kind of get that Bono was probably a little bit pissed off, but I mean, they're not my bag, and I don't like him particularly anyway. But I do get kind of where he would have been coming from, why he would have been a bit pissed off about that. Oh, Blues, yeah, those are amazing, amazing bands to have seen. Aerosmith, I'd love to have seen Aerosmith. Megadeth, Metallica, Slayer. I'm not big into kind of your sort of Slayer, Pantera kind of metal stuff, but Ozzy, I do wish that I'd seen with Zakk Wylde. Iron Maiden, yeah, again, I wish I'd been to see them. There's just not enough time, is there? And there's just like so many amazing bands. Simon says the guitarist had a bad attitude. Oh yeah, this was in back in reference to your previous comment. Acted like he was the only one on stage who mattered. Oh really? The rest of the band were kind of arrogant in their attitude to the crowd, and the musicianship was so sloppy. That surprises me. Does surprise me, but that's really poor. That is really poor. Like I say, I really don't think that's acceptable when you've got a crowd of people who have paid to come and see you. I don't think you get to have that kind of snooty attitude towards them. Yeah, that's definitely not on. But yeah, Alice Cooper, and the theatrics of it and everything. Yeah, you're going to be expecting stuff like that. It's probably like one of the best moments, right? You're right at the front and you get covered in fake blood. I don't know. I think that was kind of I would have enjoyed that, I think. Tom, hey Tom, loudest gig was Killing Joke. Really? Oh, the bass, I suppose. They do have some rocking bass lines though, don't they? They do have some absolutely awesome bass lines. Peter Collins says best gig was Velvet Revolver. Oh, yeah, that's one that kind of like it's kind of flew under the radar a little bit for me anyway, in terms of I think they were doing their thing kind of quite a lot at the time when it was sort of early 2000s, I think, and I was big into the Darkness and stuff, so that was like my main thing. And yeah, I sort of like missed out on that whole Velvet Revolver thing. 2000 standing downstairs, and we got balcony access passes, great view, no queuing for bar and toilets. That's always good. That's always great. If you don't have to, when you don't have to queue for the bar or toilets, that's living the dream. Scott says, I saw Gwar. Gwar? Is that what they're called? Gwar? And there was so much fake blood, it dyed my friend's contact pink. One of the only concerts I hugged the back wall. Yeah, wow. That sounds like an absolutely brilliant gig to me. But yeah, probably not good to get fake blood in your contacts, I'd imagine. But Will says, Gwar, always really funny to watch. I've always put on my oldest clothes because of the blood. See, if you know, you can be prepared, can't you? Yeah, Glastonbury is not a festival. I mean, look at Woodstock. That was a festival. Well, yeah, arguably festivals have just become, I don't know what they've become, really. It's just a mass corporate cash in, isn't it? The sound's always terrible. you're captive for X amount of days. So the amount that they can gouge you for essentials like food and stuff is just appalling. And I remember on one of these occasions, I'm not good at camping anyway. I'm not good with outdoorsy stuff. I don't like it anyway, right? So I was in this tent, and I think I was woken up in the middle of the night. I think by someone basically like urinating against the tent, and I got up and I decided to walk all the way to my car. So this is like all the way out of the festival, like along the canal to the car park in the middle of the night, find my car. I don't know how I did this to this day. Like, I don't know how I did this, but I managed to find my car. This was like back in the day before we had like we didn't have like any, well, I had a little crappy Vauxhall Corsa. It didn't have any like smart technology, like, keys that could find the car or anything like that. So I really don't know how I managed to do this in the dark and in the middle of the night. But I found my car. So I got in my car and slept on the back seat of my car, which was a very, very small car. And it was, even for me, and I'm only very small, like, it was still very uncomfortable. I wouldn't advise it to anyone at all, ever. And by about 6 o'clock in the morning, the car had turned basically into a greenhouse. It was summer, it was hot, the sun was kind of like pouring in and being magnified. Obviously the windows were all closed and everything. So it was literally like being in a sauna. And I woke up just soaked in sweat and just stinking. And I just thought, that's it, that's me, I'm out. I don't do festivals. So yeah, I never have done ever since then. Just don't do them. Yes, Ninja Sticks, festivals are tough. Yeah, don't miss forcing myself through the second stage acts to feel like I got my money's worth, plus the heat, the sun, the smell, the drunks. All of those things. Yep. Michelle says, best gig was Pink Pop 1998, Tori Amos and 16 horsepower. Oh, yeah, Tori Amos. That's another one. I'd love to go and see Tori Amos. She's on my list. Like, I'm gonna go at some point. I definitely want to see Tori Amos, like, at least once in my life. Lamb says, my worst one was one I played. Oh no, that sucks. Was supposed to be us supporting the Bleeding Hearts band in Birmingham. The promoter put 6 metal bands on first. We went on about midnight to nobody. Aww, that's sad. But, I mean, it's not your fault. Like, you didn't mess anything up. Like, you did what you came to do. That's, it's not your fault there was no one left there by the end. I believe the Bleeding Hearts, being somewhat punk, decided to soften the promoter up a bit before they went on. Right. Fair enough. And then conversely, the best was seeing Dire Straits reunited for a secret charity gig in 2002. Oh, cool. Knopfler was on fire. There was also solo stuff, and Jimmy Nail was there, weirdly. Yeah, that is pretty weird, isn't it? Shepherd's Bush Empire. I was spellbound. I remember Jimmy Nail. He's actually quite a good singer. I mean, his stuff was a bit country for me, for my tastes. But nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with that. And I think he got a pretty decent singing voice. I think he can play guitar as well. But weird, yeah, weird that he was there. It's like, oh wow, Dire Straits, amazing. Is that Jimmy Nail? Oh, it sounds really cool though. Hey, Chris is here. Hey, Chris. Best gig, Soundgarden before they were big. Ah, yeah. Ah, mate. Standing 4 feet from Chris Cornell and thinking, who is this guy and where did this band come from? Yeah. Like, I could imagine that it was probably one of those, like, you look back and still can't quite believe that you were there and you saw that. Like, that's one of those really, really seminal moments, isn't it? Yeah, it's like if you'd ever been to see, you know, Nirvana in any of their early gigs, you know, you would have just been like, what am I listening to? What is this? But like looking back on it, it's like, wow. Yeah, you know, I can't say that I've ever had any. No, I've never had any of those moments where I've been to an early gig of a band that then subsequently became really huge and you know, changed the course of music history. Unfortunately, just that just never quite happened with any bands that I've been to see anyway. Tom, you were supposed to support The Darkness on a pre-album release gig. Oh, it fell through though. And 6 months later, they were the biggest band in Britain. Wow. Oh, mate. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Because, yeah. That's like, oh. I mean, the thing is, though, that initial burst of fame for them, obviously that all kind of then imploded, didn't it? So, you know, it's not like they continued and then they were one of the biggest bands on the planet, and it all kind of went a bit pear-shaped. So I can imagine a couple of years later you probably felt like you maybe dodged a bullet a little bit. I don't know, but yeah, they've had a mixed fortunes, haven't they? What's this one I've just missed about all-time best? Will says all-time favourites was Dream Theater, Iron Maiden, and surprisingly Hollywood Vampires because of Alice Cooper. Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. And yeah, supergroups usually are supergroups for a reason, aren't they? They usually, you know, usually have some pretty amazing talent. Let's see, scrolling down, trying to catch up. Lamb got to hang at the Alice Cooper show in Birmingham last year because your best friend was in the support band. Wow, that's cool. That's very, very cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like if there's ever any connection to the band and you do get to do all that stuff, like that obviously makes it a lot more memorable, doesn't it? You know, and I talk quite a lot in a bit more detail about this in my 20 Years of Darkness fandom video, if anyone's interested in any of that. But having said that, one of the other really, really rubbish gigs that I've been to was when So after the Darkness had split up, and well, I mean, they hadn't split up. Justin left, and he formed another band called Hot Leg. Now, if any of you know, I mean, I don't expect you'd have heard of them because they didn't do very well, surprisingly. But you know, they were along the lines of like, if any of you know of Steel Panther. I mean, I know you could say the Darkness are kind of like that anyway, but this was even more like, even kind of, even, I want to say like more of a joke, but I don't think he was doing it as a joke. He's always kind of like taken the music and the songs very seriously, but if you saw them, if you Google a picture of them and saw what they looked like and what they dressed like and everything, you'd see what I mean. So it was that sort of Steel Panther-esque kind of thing. Justin had bleached his hair blonde and done the whole like 80s thing, even like the Darkness in their first iteration, he was more sort of like 70s catsuits, sort of long wavy hair, sort of more like Robert Plant kind of. It was more 70s, like Queen and that kind of thing. In Hot Leg, he'd gone for a much more 80s approach, kind of hair metal, glam kind of approach. And I think their songs were a little bit ridiculous, like even more. They weren't very good. And I went to see them anyway, obviously. They actually played in Exeter at the Cavern, which is a very small kind of underground venue, probably around, I don't know, a couple of hundred capacity. I mean, it's very small, and the stage is tiny. It's like a postage stamp. You can barely fit a band on there. I've played the Cavern, like my band played the Cavern. Like, it's a place for local bands, really, but they do get some. They do get some famous bands there, of course, and lots of famous bands started there. So you know, it's a very, very cool venue. And yeah, Hot Leg played there, so I went to see them. And it was it was just a bit cringe. And I was stood like right in front of them. And like there was literally like no gap really between the stage and the crowd. Like all 10 of us that were in there. No, I mean there were more people than that, but it didn't feel like it was packed, to be honest. And I just felt a bit awkward because I wasn't enjoying it, and I'm not very good at being fake. So even sort of standing basically this far from Justin Hawkins, like I didn't have it really within me to sort of clap and cheer and support them and pretend that I was enjoying it. And I left early. I had to go. I just had to leave because I just felt so awkward. And it, yeah, I think that's probably my worst gig. I think that I would say is my worst gig experience of just feeling that I just didn't want to see them finish the set. You know, I kind of waited till they like got to the end of one of their songs, and I said, I just went over and I said to Justin, oh, I'm not feeling very well. I'm gonna have to go home. You know, I just felt like I had to like say something and excuse myself. really, yeah, really, really my worst one, I would say. So, yeah, but that's not really to do with them being that bad as such. It was just that it wasn't my thing, and I just felt awkward about kind of being there, really. So yeah, maybe that makes me a bit of a, I don't know, I guess you could say maybe I'm a fair weather fan, but you know, I did go. I did at least give it a shot. I gave it a chance. But yes, anyway, some of your stories, but this is actually a lot more positive. So this is turning into your best gigs. Another one was the Clash in Blackburn. Stood right at the front, leaning against the stage with my teenage heroes just a few feet away. I mean, it is awesome, right? It's absolutely brilliant when you do get to do that and have that experience, like of being there with the people that you can hardly believe you're in the same room with. And that's exactly how I felt about going to see Jerry. I just almost kind of couldn't believe that I got to be in the same space as him. Amazing. Tony Foster. Hiya, Tony. Best gig, Toxic Twin Towers Ball, Wembley, Saturday, 26th of June, 1999. Aerosmith, Lenny Kravitz, Stereophonics, Black Crows, Three Colours Red. All very cool. I went to see the Stereophonics, actually, in France, and it was when I was on my year abroad, and yeah, they were pretty good. They were super popular. Like, there was one time where they seemed to have so many records out. Not kind of sure what happened to them, really, but yeah, they were super popular, weren't they, in the early 2000s? Yeah, Mark, too old for festivals now. Yeah, well, I was in my early 20s when I said, that's it, no more festivals for me. I don't think it's an age thing. I think at any age they suck. Yeah, would second Tori Amos though. Saw her in the 90s, just her and a piano. She was brilliant. Yeah, like she is a true artist, isn't she? No, Hozza, I haven't seen that. The film Still Crazy with Billy Connolly, Timothy Spall, Bill Nighy, and Jemmy Nail about a failed rock band. I haven't seen that, but that sounds really fun. Definitely want to have a look at that one. Oh yeah, thanks, Alec. Thanks for reminding everyone. Please hit the like button. We are struggling at the moment. No doubt a lot of you will have seen like Steve's videos and Steve's live stream and Andy Mack's video on Guitar Stuff Studio. You know, a lot of us really are just noticing that, you know, things on YouTube are not good. They're not good. And I think a lot of people are just kind of really not sort of prepared to carry on, or just taking a break, reassessing and thinking about, you know, a different approach or doing something a little bit different with it. I'm just going to plow on regardless. So I'm just going to carry on doing whatever it is I do, and hopefully chatting with all you guys, because this is great. I really love this. But yeah, it does help if you can do things like hit the like button. I think it helps. I'm not entirely convinced. Right, I'm aware we've gone over the hour, but so many cool stories that I want to have a look at. So we'll try and get to the end of the comments and see where we get to by then. Paul Owens, walking into the venue to see Godspeed You, Black Emperor. when the guy in front suddenly power vomited, exorcist style, over the bar doors in a never-ending fountain. Disgusted, I turned and left. Ew. Yeah. Yeah. Quite funny, but pretty grim, I can imagine. Yeah, that's horrible. Thank you for sharing, for sharing that story with us. Yeah, I can imagine that's really unpleasant. Martin Smith, hi Martin, says worst gig, a local band in Cornwall. Unfortunately, their drummer had quit the day before, and the replacement could only do a simple 1-2-1-2 at a fixed tempo that all songs had to fit. Oh no, that's a nightmare. Yeah, I mean, it is always a little bit cringe when you see a band and one of them is noticeably, or you know, they're not all at the same skill level, and yeah, particularly where there is like one of them that's noticeably kind of not as good as the others. That is a little bit cringe, I can imagine. Brian, hey Brian, says I saw Alice at a college near me last year. How have times changed where he was probably at one time banned from colleges? I presume you mean universities. Yeah, it's what you call university in the US, isn't it? College. Because yeah, I can't imagine he was ever allowed to play at what we call college over here, which is like sixth form, like when you're kind of 16 to 18. I can't imagine he was ever allowed. Satchel of Steel Panther is one of the best guitarists I've ever seen. Yeah, he's great. Steel Panther are brilliant. They really rock, and I'd love to go and see them, because well, you kind of know what you're getting. Like, you know what you're in for with Steel Panther. You're kind of in on the joke. I think you're laughing with them, aren't you? It's not a laughing at. It's a laughing with, isn't it? Because they're very 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 good fun, very funny. You know, and they do what they do really well as well, and I think that's really important. What does that relate to, Martin? Should have stood up and done the fast show. Anyone fancy a pint? Oh yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, no, Will, I'm not in my 20s anymore, but thank you. I know, I can barely believe it myself either, really. I mean, where does the time go? Ninja sticks. Easier to remember great performance than weaker ones. Yep. Happy to suffer through it all again to see the acts I got to see in their prime. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, things can be, I think gigs can be memorable for a lot of different reasons. It could be because of who you go with, you know, it could be that whole experience, you know, what it was like for you at the time, regardless of what the performance was like. Or yeah, it could just be that it was so bad that it left you traumatized. It could be, you know, or that it was the greatest and best gig you've ever seen. I think some of the gigs that have left the biggest impressions on me haven't necessarily been because the music itself was that great. I think it's more about the kind of circumstances around some of it. So one of the best ones ever was when I saw The Darkness in LA, and I think that was because I was there. I'd been invited. I was on the guest list. And so I got to do the whole guest list thing, go backstage, and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, they were brilliant. The performance was brilliant. One of the best performances I've seen them do ever, actually. But the audience was fantastic, really, really receptive, like really went kind of, really rocked out. And the whole vibe, just the whole experience was amazing. But yeah, I've probably seen other gigs, well, like the Jerry Cantrell gig that was, I think, musically just on another level, just on a completely, like, just on a different level entirely. Well, Richie Kotzen, like, I think musically, and from the point of view of as a guitarist, that's like the greatest gig I've ever seen. I was completely gobsmacked by that. So yeah, but still, that was great, and I loved it, and I got to meet him and everything. But yeah, just there are other gigs for other reasons that I think have probably left a bit of a deeper impression, maybe. Oh, you found the Cavern, the Hot Leg gig. Is it on YouTube somewhere? I'll have a look. I've not ever dared to look it up or look for it, but I probably don't want to go there, but part of me is interested. And yeah, he looks a lot like the frontman of Steel Panther. Yes, I think that's what, genuinely, I kind of think that's what he was going for. But they just didn't, they didn't pull it off in quite the same way. Mark Hayward says, weirdest gig was Primus. Brilliant, but weird. I mean, that's cool as well, though. Will says, before I have to leave this interesting stream, the worst band ever, a Chinese death metal band in Wacken 2013. Someone should tell these guys that drums and bass have to play together. It was noise. Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. When the rhythm section isn't working, nothing's working. Absolutely agree with that. Exy Music, hey there, haven't seen you around for a while. I haven't thought about the worst concert I've ever seen in a long time. I remember being disappointed seeing Alanis Morissette in the 90s. It seemed a bit sterile and pre-packaged rote performance. Yeah, I can kind of imagine what you mean about that. Like the album, like her album Jagged Little Pill, when it came out, was well, it's really raw, isn't it? And yeah, she was kind of meant to be this young raw talent, so you don't expect to see a very sort of polished and sort of tidy performance. And I can imagine that would be a little bit disappointing, that it wasn't more kind of rock and more like spontaneous, I guess. But yeah, I understand why that probably was. If you get to see Steel Panther, Jojo, would you get on stage for 17 girls in a row? Oh. Probably not. No. No, for so many reasons. But oh, Simon agrees as well. Alanis Morissette, real lack of stage presence. That's really gutting. That's really disappointing. I definitely would have thought better of her, to be honest. But yeah, exactly. Music is a performative art. It's the sound and the show. And yeah, audience participation is huge. Yes, it is. And it's why Fear Factory in NYC will always be my fave show. The crowd knew every word to every song. And yes, that's That's what I'm talking about. That sort of stuff is key. When you are in a room or a stadium even, and everyone is singing along, like that was one of the best things for me about when I went to see Depeche Mode. So this was in 2016, and it was what, like a 80,000 seater stadium, 80,000 capacity, something like that. 60 or 80,000, I don't know, but it was a lot, and that's not normally my kind of thing. I'm not really into that usually, but because it was incredible. Actually, the crowd was incredible, singing every word, on songs like Everything Counts, you know, like they're kind of big songs. That was an amazing feeling, actually, and being part of it was pretty incredible. Although the most hilarious bit of that gig was when Dave Garn fell over. And for a brief moment, I thought I was going to witness the death of Dave Garn live, you know, because they're getting on a bit. I mean, he's in his 60s. So yeah, even kind of like nearly 10 years ago, like 8 years ago, he was getting on, and he has been dead a few times already. So, you know, you kind of think, how much longer has he got left? And he just like he just slipped over. His like legs, spindly legs, went out from under him, and he is a bit sort of like skinny, and you know, there's not probably a lot to cushion the blow when he fell. So I was a little bit like, oh God, please don't let him die right now, because like I was really enjoying this gig. But it was just kind of hilarious, because like he got up and he went, hey, and the whole crowd just went, hey. It's a massive cheer. It was brilliant. I did really enjoy that. But anyway, I think I shall leave it there with the near death experience of Dave Garn, but which was ultimately a very uplifting experience, and shows that, yeah, as Ninja said, it's live, it's what it's all about. It's about the crowd, it's about the atmosphere, it's about the performance. It's all of these things, all of these elements, and any of these can make something your best gig or your worst gig. But thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your stories, because I just love this stuff. Really, really, really great stories. And yeah, I will see you again. Well, I'll be doing a video as usual on Tuesday, bit of a shorter one this time, so will still be a premiere, so I'll be there in the live chat. And it's all about, it got me thinking after coming back from the gig as well, about stories behind songs. So yeah, there's a bit of a question about knowing stories behind songs. So that'll be Tuesday's video. And yeah, I've got a few other things that I'm working on. I'm waiting on Fertilizer to send me some bits for doing my Squire mods. So, you know, doing some bits and pieces on that, and hopefully I might be doing something with Pink Mouse, who is a regular viewer of the channel. He's very, very kindly offered to like help me with some of the electronic stuff. So we're just trying to figure out how we can do that. And yeah, no doubt I'm going to be jumping on the Sonido audio interface bandwagon, because they've emailed me. So I've said, yeah, all right, why not? Why not? Send me one and see if I can do anything with it. So I know everyone's already done a video about it, but you know, maybe I can do something slightly different with it. So I'll have a little bit of a think about that, and if it turns up in the post, great. So I'll be doing a video on that, hopefully. Anywho, thanks a lot for always coming along and watching. You're all fantastic, and I hope you've had a brilliant weekend, and I shall see you again soon. Take care. Bye.